A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our event. Thank you so much for joining us, and a special thank you to Minister Alghabra. We're so delighted to have you here today. I'm Michelle McCollum, Chair of Brampton Board of Trade and also an AVP at Sheridan, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity, along with our CEO Todd Letts, to ask Minister Alghabra some important questions today. We're going to be talking about the 2021 budget, in addition to many other important transport and transportation issues that are top of mind. We also, I'd like to welcome some MPs who are here today, Sonia Sidhu, Kamal Khera, Ruby Sahota and Maninder Sidhu. Thank you so much for being here and for your ongoing support for Brampton. Brampton Board of Trade has been working hard during this health and economic pandemic and supporting our businesses in many ways. We're providing reliable information through our expert series, free webinars from various experts on topics important to business owners. We bring together business people through the development of increased connection opportunities and providing those opportunities, including the bi-monthly networking meetings and many of our peer-to-peer networks. You'll have noticed a lot of publicity at the moment, which really signifies a lot of effort advocating for businesses to ensure business continuity. Specifically, we've been very pleased to see the government coming together, and we've worked extremely hard on advocating for the acceleration of essential worker vaccinations. And we're very proud to have assisted Brampton Board of Trade members, Maple Lodge Farms, Amazon and Maple Leaf Foods. And I believe their vaccination started on site this week, which is something that we were working very hard for and very grateful to see is actually happening. I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors, CN and Goodison Insurance. Thank you very much for your ongoing support that allows these events to happen. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Daniel Salvatore, Manager Public Affairs Ontario at CN, to say a few words and to introduce the Minister. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Michelle, for that kind introduction, and greetings to all of our guests here today, including you, Minister. It is my privilege to represent CN and the over 25,000 railroaders that service our North American network daily. CN remains a proud member of the Brampton Board of Trade and happy to be a sponsor or one of the sponsors of today's event. And a special thank you to Todd and his team for the continued great work they do on behalf of the businesses in Brampton. Before introducing our honored guest, I'd like to take a moment to share with you some exciting news from CN. As you may be aware, last week put forward a superior offer to the Board of Directors of Kansas City Southern Railway proposing an acquisition. This is exciting news for Brampton, Ontario, Canada, and the continent, because if successful, North America would have its first true NAFTA railroad that would be safer, faster, cleaner, and stronger, also with a significant footprint in Brampton, being the Brampton Intermodal Terminal. To date, over 600 letters of support have been submitted by shippers, stakeholders, customers, and communities to authorities in under 1 week, truly a testament to the investment CN makes with our partners. One of the many benefits of this merger would be increased competition with the trucking industry. Dubbed the Greenway Solution, this merger would create a green route from Laredo to Detroit, converting significant truck volumes to rail, reducing traffic congestion, and preventing thousands of tons of emissions from entering the atmosphere. One of our estimates predict 1,200 fewer trucks per day on this route, resulting in over 3,000 tons of CO2 from being emitted daily. Again, one of the many benefits. CN is looking forward to engaging with KCS on this proposed merger so that we can create the premier railway for the 21st century. For more information on this process, I invite you to visit our website at connectedcontinent.com. But enough about CN for now. It is also my role to introduce our honourable guest, Canada's Minister of Transportation, the Honourable Omar Alghabra. The Minister was first elected as a Member of Parliament for Mississauga Centre in 2015, and also served as the Member of Parliament for Mississauga-Arundel from 2006 to 2008. He served as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and to the Minister of International Trade Diversification. Prior to becoming Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister and to the Deputy Prime Minister. He also served as Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs in 2019. A longtime community activist, Minister Alghabra is passionate about his involvement with local organizations like the Mississauga Summit and Youth Troopers for Global Awareness. He was also a member of the community editorial board of the Toronto Star, where he authored columns on a wide range of provincial and federal issues. His work has also been published in the Huffington Post. Among his many activities, Minister Gabra has worked tirelessly to support the initiatives that empower new Canadians through social and economic integration. He's worked in various roles with General Electric Canada, Imbala Power, and the Ontario Energy Board. A mechanical engineer by trade, Minister Alghabra holds a Master of Business Administration and was a distinguished visiting fellow with the Faculty of Engineering and Architectural Science at Ryerson University. Please join me in welcoming our honored guest, Minister Omar Alghabra. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We need to work on cutting that bio a bit. I think my mom insists on writing everything, but good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Todd, Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me to be with you here today. It's a pleasure to speak with you virtually. I wish we were able to do this in person, but given the circumstances, I'm glad that we're able to do this virtually. Also, I am delighted to be joined by my friends, Kamal Kara, Sonia Sidhu, Ruby Sahoda, and Maninder Sidhu. They are strong champions for Brampton in our caucus, and I'm glad that they're able to join us today. So today, I want to share with you some highlights from Budget 2021 and outline some of the opportunities this budget presents for small and medium-sized businesses in Brampton and the GTA. Let me begin by saying that Budget 2021, a recovery plan for jobs, growth, and resilience, is a historic budget that meets the historic moment we've been living through. It is a historic budget on many fronts. It's the first ever budget in Canadian history to be tabled by a woman finance minister. And it's been a great honor to have a front row seat to witness the incredible Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, apply her creative and impressive skills in putting together this significant budget. It's also a historic budget because it's a pandemic budget, a once-in-a-century pandemic that has massively disrupted our lives and paralyzed many sectors of our economy. The pandemic also exposed many of our economic and social vulnerabilities. Also, it is a historic budget because it proposes fundamental improvements to how we do things. This budget is about healing the economic wounds left by the COVID-19 recession and creating more jobs and prosperity for Canadians in the days and decades to come. It aims to bridge Canadians and Canadian businesses through the crisis and toward a robust recovery. It proposes to extend business and income support measures to create jobs and help them come roaring back. It would support new training and work opportunities, including opportunities for youth. It will support businesses in our most affected sectors, such as tourism, arts, and culture. And it will accelerate investment and digital transformation at small and medium-sized businesses. Budget 2021 is a plan that puts Canada on track to meet our commitment to create 1 million jobs by the end of the year and sets out a clear plan for the environment. The budget proposes the creation of a national, high-quality, and affordable childcare program. You know, for many years, parents talked about how challenging it is to find affordable childcare, and including particularly, I would say, in the Peel region. For far too many parents, especially mothers, they've had to make the difficult decision between choosing whether to stay at home with their kids or pursue their career. The pandemic also made it clear to businesses that the lack of affordable childcare options has been a hindrance for them to recruit talented employees. Our plan will leave money in the parents' pockets and some businesses who may be offering such benefit, and will provide parents, including single mothers, the choice of fulfilling their career dreams. help provide young children enriching educational opportunities, and assist businesses in finding the skills they're looking for. Now, speaking of jobs and talent, in 2021, green recovery means job growth. And the budget supports a green recovery that fights climate change and builds a net zero economy by investing in Canada's world-leading technologies that make industry cleaner and reduce pollution. Some businesses small businesses are at the heart of Brampton and our cities, towns and villages across Canada, but they've suffered badly in the past year. To help them recover, we will launch a new Canada Recovery Hiring Benefit program. We'll also help up to 160,000 small and medium-sized businesses buy and adopt the new technologies they need to grow. We will invest to revitalize the tourism, hospitality, arts, and culture sectors. We'll support entrepreneurs, including women entrepreneurs, Black Canadian entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs from racialized groups. In addition, we will help small and medium-sized businesses in Brampton and all regions by improving the supply chain they depend on. We know we need to address capacity constraints, bottlenecks, and inefficiencies in our transportation infrastructure. That's why Budget 2021 includes almost $2 billion to recapitalize the National Trade Corridors Fund. The National Trade Corridors Fund supports critical infrastructure projects that bolster economic activity and the movement of goods and people across Canada. We will also invest in the transportation infrastructure needed to sustain continued growth. Here in the Greater Toronto Area, the high-frequency rail project has the potential to transform passenger rail between Quebec City and Toronto. A modernized passenger rail system in the Toronto-Quebec City corridor with a dedicated track would significantly improve the movement of people and goods. The budget proposes almost $500 million for rail infrastructure investments to reduce existing bottlenecks and improve fluidity and connectivity in the corridor between Toronto and Quebec City. And finally, I know that many businesses here in Brampton rely on air travel. I just want to repeat, given that we are still in the third wave, now is not the time to travel. But you'll all be glad to hear that we're investing in measures to restore Canadians' confidence in the safety of air travel once public health restrictions and border measures are adjusted. The budget will help major Canadian airports, including the Toronto Pearson International Airport, invest in COVID-19 testing infrastructure. It would also provide funding to help the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority acquire and operate sanitization equipment. I know that entrepreneurs and business leaders here today are excited about the opportunities that this budget creates for them. From my years in the private sector, I learned that when businesses put customers first, businesses benefit. And this is exactly what this budget is doing. Budget 2021 is about meeting a new challenge, the greatest our country has faced in a generation, with a renewed promise. We will continue our fight against COVID-19 and ensure a robust economic recovery that includes all Canadians. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you so much, Minister. It was really great to have that overview of budget, and there'll definitely, I think, be some questions that we'd like to dig into a little bit more there. We were talking just before we came on to screen that the last time we saw each other was when you visited Sheridan, and you came to visit Edge and our entrepreneurship hub. And you've always been a great supporter of business and entrepreneurs. Now in this new portfolio of transport, which you took over in January, perhaps quite different from some of the other portfolios that you've held. And so coming into this, especially at this time, how has it been over the last few months?
Thanks, Michelle. And yes, I fondly remember that event. Sheridan is an incredible institution at the heart of the city of Mississauga, but also a great contributor to city of Brampton and Oakville, and to our region. It produces a generation of entrepreneurs, of future workers and professionals for our economy and our society. So I am very proud, and I was proud then, and I continue to be proud, a supporter of Sheridan. And as to your point, I worked, by the way, in part of my private sector life with a quasi startup. It was a small startup. For a while, I worked at the DMZ at Ryerson as an executive in residence, helping entrepreneurs guide them with closing deals and finding clients. So the entrepreneurial ecosystem is close to my heart. But you're right. This transport sector is an important sector to our economy, to our security, and coming in at this time has been a fascinating experience and quite a demanding experience. But it's a great privilege. I come to this job, to this role, with great humility and appreciation for the challenges that are before us. And I know the great work that my predecessor, Minister Garneau, has done, our government has done. So there's an endless number of opportunities that are before us, especially at our sector, transportation, at certainly our government, and many challenges. So my focus continues to be, as a transport minister, number one for me, a priority is safety on all modes of transportation. Number two is making sure that the sector continues to facilitate fluid, efficient economic activities. And number three is focused on climate change. Transportation sector is the second largest source of emissions, of pollutions, or greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So there's a challenge there to ensure that we, if we want to meet and we want to meet our objectives, we have to address emissions in the sector. So as you can tell, and this is just headlines of the files or the priorities. Certainly, trade with our friends down south is a big element of my priority. So the range of issues are endless, and I come at them with humility, knowing that I know I have a lot to learn, but I have a great team supporting me. There are great players in the sector who have been leaders, global leaders in safety, in efficiency, in productivity, that I've enjoyed meeting and learning from, but I know there's a lot more for me to learn and to work on.
Thanks so much, Minister. Just a note to all of our participants, if you do have questions for Minister Alghabra, please post them. Please post those in the chat, and we'll pick those up as we're going along as well. Todd is watching the chat and will jump in. He was having some internet connection issues, so if Todd isn't able to, I'll certainly have a watch out for questions coming up in the chat as well. Minister, hi there, Todd. Your internet's working for now, I see. Yeah, good. So, Minister, you mentioned safety a few times and also mentioned the importance of airports and air travel, particularly to Brampton and to the GTA. And with the rollout of vaccines continuing at this pace, what do you foresee will be, when will we be able to travel again? And will the government be looking to lay out some kind of plan with appropriate milestones about when we can reopen air travel, recognizing, I think you made a really great point that safety is a number one concern. And then also, if you could just talk a little about that balance between essential travel and the need for airports to remain open for essential goods and things like that coming in. So kind of two-part question: is there a plan for reopening, and how have you been balancing essential travel with the need for safety as well? Oh, I think you're on mute. There you go.
First. So
yes.
that's an important question that many Canadians, I think, are grappling with, and particularly Canadians in our region near the airport. Let me just say, from day one, from the beginning of the pandemic, we committed to Canadians that we will do whatever it takes to protect the health and safety of Canadians. And from the beginning, we've been rolling out measures, layers of measures at the border and at other federal jurisdictions to ensure the protections of Canadians. Certainly, these measures have been in response to the realities and the data and the science, and we've been consulting public health experts at this. And today, we have some of the strongest and most strictest border measures in the world. We've actually cut international travel by 95%. I mean, I wish I could show you a graph, because honestly, the graph for people who work in the aviation sector is heartbreaking. But for people who want to see the impact of these measures, they can see the graph dramatically decline to the levels that we're at today. So we cut 95% of international travel. And we have not hesitated. Just like last week, we've added another layer. I've issued a suspension of direct flights from India and Pakistan based on data that we got from the regime that we've implemented, the regime of testing. So we require testing of people before boarding a plane, then we test them when they arrive, then they stay at a hotel, then they're asked to be tested again on day 8, then they're expected to finish the quarantine on day 14. So as you can tell, the measures are quite strict. So it's, and we've adjusted as we benefited from that data that we're collecting. And as I said last week, we discovered after a few weeks of data that 50% of the infection that have been arriving to Canada were coming from India. Disproportionately large percentage of infection. And I want to make clear, by the way, when you talk about infection that is arriving, we capture those infections. We capture them through the tests. And those individuals are asked to quarantine at a government hotel or a government facility for the remainder of those 14 days. So I just want to be clear, by the way, when we see numbers of infections on a plane, those numbers are captured through our rigorous system. So, the system is as tight as possible. Now, I want to be clear, there is an option if we want to shut down 100% of travel, but it's not a feasible option. It's not a practical option. Because we still need supplies, we still need vaccines, we still need PPEs, we still need, maybe potentially the nuclear engineer that needs to travel but to come and do an inspection, or a healthcare worker that is flying into the country, or the temporary foreign workers that are coming to work on farms to supply us with food that we need. So it is really, I want to be honest with Canadians. It's not feasible to completely shut travel. However, we have put together the regime that's some of the strictest combination of layers of regime to protect Canadians. And what we will continue to do is continue to assess these measures and continue to adjust these measures as we see fit to protect Canadians. Now, the second part of the question, is there a plan for the restart? Yes, we actually assembled key stakeholders from the sector, from the aviation sector, including airports, airlines, unions, and other type of stakeholders in a working group that we're discussing with them. Okay, what is the gradual restart is going to look like? What things do we need to put in place? We are doing that. Now, you won't see a lot of public conversations about this because right now we want our message to continue to say now is not the time to travel. And if we start talking about planning for restart, it might send conflicting messages. And we want to right now focus on now, which is protect Canadians from the spread of COVID. But this work is being done. Milestones, thresholds, indices are being worked on. But I just want to close by saying it will all depend on the reality on the ground, on the data that we're getting from our public health officials, on the data that we're getting about transmission, either international transmission or domestic transmission. All that is going to feed into our information and guide us as we develop what the next phase is going to look like. And I will say it's all temporary. We know it's all temporary. The question is when, and that it would be foolish of me to pretend to know when, because we've seen so far that this virus is unpredictable. And the sooner we vaccinate, the sooner we follow, the more diligent we are about following public health to restrict the transmission of virus, the sooner we will get to the next phases.
Okay, thank you, Minister. You mentioned in your opening remarks the replenishment of the National Trade Corridor Fund, and I think an additional $1.9 billion has been added to that fund. Can you share with us your thoughts around why that's so important and how that will support international trade as we go forward? And I'm not sure if you've identified what the criteria of the fund will be, and if you could share your thoughts on that.
Sure, Michelle, this is a great fund. It's great for many reasons. First, it is an infrastructure fund, and infrastructure investment pays dividend over the many years. Not only does it create job today, but it pays dividend over the coming years. It is also a great fund and a great initiative because it really is meant to facilitate and help grow trade. And our government from the beginning has been a great champion of trade diversification and trade expansion. We're now the only G7 country that has a free trade agreement with all other G7 nations. Our friends in the US don't have that. So our businesses here in Canada have a competitive advantage. But in order for us to facilitate those channels that we have, we need to make sure that the bottlenecks that may exist and exists, I shouldn't just say may, because I know they exist, need to be mitigated, need to be expanded, need to be dealt with. And I often hear from businesses about the expansion, the need to expand rail infrastructure, the need to expand port infrastructure, the need to expand airport infrastructure. So those are examples of what these funds are for. The specifics of their requirement will obviously be built on the last fund, but I suspect we're going to modify them a bit this time around to ensure a broader inclusion of potential projects. So we are going to soon announce the criteria for these projects and invite all key organizations to apply for this fund. And we're going to have, actually this time around, we're going to have the challenge, and it's a good challenge, to start as quickly as possible, because we also want to ensure that it's part of the stimulus package that creates jobs as quickly as possible. So that's not only are we looking to build those great infrastructures, but we want to do them as quickly as possible. And I'll be calling on businesses across the country to rise to the occasion and come up with these excellent ideas and to do them as quickly as possible.
And on the note of transportation infrastructure, Brampton Board of Trade is a supporter of GTA West Corridor. And it's been a frustration for our business community, I think, along with other major infrastructure projects, the length of time it takes to get these projects going. The Milton Logistics Hub was another another project that seemed to take a very long time to get moving. And the Brampton business community sometimes feels that the federal government doesn't necessarily take the action it needs to take in order to move these 4 projects on quickly enough. So I believe it's May 4th that you'll be making a determination on whether a federal EA will go forward for GTA West. So I wondered if you could share more about that and just some of the timing issues that we're seeing behind these important infrastructure projects being approved.
Sure. Look, I know the Minister of Environment, I think, has to make a decision by May 4th, and whether this project will need a federal environmental assessment or not. But and let me just say that I think everybody here in the audience and all Canadians understand and recognize, we can no longer, and we should not be able to do projects the way we did 20, 30 years ago, given the various challenges that we're facing today, from climate change to sustainability issues, to make sure that we have an inclusive growth. I'm not saying that means, the answer to this is do it slower. No, I'm saying we have to do it better. We have to do it using different methods and different criteria as we evaluate projects. In fact, the reforms that our government has done to the environmental assessment has within it requirements to ensure that there's certainty in the length of time that the assessment takes, in the criteria that the assessment will involve. So if there's one thing I know that businesses want is certainty. If tell us how long this is going to take and when the decision will be made, and that's something that we've listened to. We need to strive toward. So it is. I understand. There are sometimes it's frustrating, but it is the duty of any government to assess the public good and public objective, and to meet all those criteria, because we certainly don't want to find ourselves 10 years later or 20 years later not having examined certain angles of those projects. But and let me assure you, this is actually meant to ensure the success of these projects, because we've seen when projects don't go through the due diligence that they need to go through, delays end up happening maybe a month later or a year later, that could have been addressed upfront and eliminated the creation of new uncertainty. So I think it's in the best interest of business. It's in the best interest of our economy that we do our due diligence upfront, but that does not mean that we cause unnecessary delay. We need to be expeditious. We need to be thoughtful about how we conduct those assessments, what criteria to consider. But it is in the best interest of businesses and Canadians.
Thank you, Minister. We're definitely keeping our eye out for that decision. I think next week. I wanted to jump back to the first topic that you mentioned in your opening remarks, and that's the budget. And you talked about this being a historic budget, and I think there's over 100 billion in new spending. And something that I know is on the minds of the Brampton business community, as well as many Canadians, is how can we afford this? How can the federal government afford to deliver this budget, and what is that going to look like for years to come? And I think we're heading towards a 1.4 trillion deficit in 5 years. So how can we afford to have this level of spending from the federal government?
Actually, the question, I would say, how could we not afford to do it? That we could not. Let me say this: if at a time of national and international public health and economic crisis, a government does not step up and carry the burden on behalf of small businesses and individuals, when will government step up? If there's ever a time to do so, it is now. Now, of course, we have to be very concerned and careful about the management of our fiscal situation and our deficits and our ability to manage the debt, those are incredibly important considerations. And my confident answer to you is that absolutely we can afford to do this now. In fact, we have to do this now. Our fiscal situation continues to be one of the best in the developed world. We continue, and by the way, we're seeing the entire world, including the developed world, make similar decisions, although some countries are carrying similar, if not greater, magnitude of debt or deficit. However, I would argue they've made different choices about how to spend or invest these funds. I feel very confident that we are investing those resources in the right places that Canadians need. And honestly, any economist would tell you that the reason why we continue to have a semblance of a healthy, vibrant economy is because of the measures that glued the economy together at a time of great uncertainty and upheaval. So I would argue that this had to be done at a time, by the way, of also interest zeros, not only close to zero, but maybe even in a negative if you consider real measures or real rates. This is a time to invest in Canadians. This is a time to bear the burden on behalf of Canadians, because those costs, if the government didn't step up and manage them, you will find individuals and businesses that will end up having to accrue that cost, maybe lead to significant bankruptcies and collapse of sectors of our economy, which will end up compelling government to then offer support, by the way. So I feel we're actually, ironically, saving money by doing it up front instead of waiting for significant collapse and then the government stepping in and offer more money. So that's my response to this question. And I feel very confident that, yes, of course, we need to manage our financial resources well and responsibly. And I feel we have done that in a smart and a thoughtful way.
Thank you, Minister. And an important initiative coming out of the budget is childcare support, and that's something that's very important, particularly in Brampton, as we see some of the highest monthly median daycare rates, and also some of the lowest coverage rates across Brampton. So, how will the government's daycare programme work, and how will that impact the families specifically in Brampton, and how do you see that rolling out, and what can families expect to see?
Sure. This is, by the way, part of why I call this budget a historic budget, because it does offer certain measures that really reimagines how we do things. And as I said in my speech, we've been hearing from parents for years about this, but there's a consensus today, not only from parents, but from economists, from businesses, from social scientists, that we now saw how important it is to provide families with affordable, high-quality access to childcare. So there's a reason why the budget is offering significant and serious amount of investment to ensure that this happens. And what we've set two milestones. First milestone is by next year, we want to see the monthly costs of childcare cut in half. And for parents in Brampton or Mississauga, the range, if they find spaces, the range could vary from $1,400 a month to almost $2,000 a month. And imagine if you cut that in half by next year, like that is $700 a month in the pockets of parents, if not more. And then our goal is to, by 5 years from now, 2026, is to get to the $10 a day of childcare. And this is a model that we actually, are benefiting from our friends in Quebec from. They've had this model for years. We've seen tremendous success and tremendous data that that can be provided about women's participation in the workforce, about quality of childcare afforded to kids, like so many benefits that are measurable. And now the implementation is obviously going to be a tricky one because we need to work with the province of Ontario and all provinces and territories to implement this. So I'm looking forward for our government having fruitful discussions with the Ontario government. We are coming to the table with real significant resources, with a plan, with objectives, and I look forward to finalizing. We need to really cross the T's and dot the I's with the province of Ontario, but hopefully finalize them as soon as possible so parents can see the impact as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Minister. That's certainly really, really important, both for employers to access quality employees and for employees to be able to get back into the workforce, and is a significant barrier right now. So very pleased to see that. There's a question coming from the audience. You mentioned high frequency rail in the budget, and from Toronto to Ottawa, or I think was it Quebec City?
Right.
How and when, you mentioned around, I think just under 500 million, how and when will that be rolled out? Is there a plan to move that forward?
Yes. So first, let me just say that some of the groundwork has been worked on for the last couple of years. Our government has established a joint office between the Canada Infrastructure Bank, Transport Canada, and Via Rail on studying this concept. And they've done a lot of excellent work in preparing the groundwork for this. We first need to get the budget approved to get the funds flowing, and then we're going to start doing the engineering work. We're going to start, doing the profile work. So it's going to roll out as quickly as possible. I'm not able to give you yet the milestones or the toll gates because that work is going to be, of course, important. But it's very important for Canadians to understand that, again, this is a significant fund or amount of money that we're investing in this. This reflects how serious we are about this project, about how valuable we see it will be for passengers and goods. And I say goods because even though this is a high frequency train for passengers, but it will remove some of the traffic from the shared railway that currently exists with CN and CP. So this is a good project for everyone. Certainly the busiest corridor in the country between Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto. So it makes a lot of sense, and I'm really looking forward to hitting the ground running as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Minister. Going back to your role and optimism as we think about going forward, the balance of everything that's happening at the moment. Our businesses are still feeling the weight of the pandemic, physically, mentally, and economically. How is the federal government going to move forward with mental health supports? And just recognizing that the world is a very different place than it was pre-pandemic, and now more than a year in, I think our whole country is getting very, very tired. And as we're seeing other countries seem to be able to open up more, are able to do more, are able to move more. How are we going to move forward as a community, and what supports will the federal government have in place for us?
Yeah. Look, Michelle, let me just first say that the entire world continues to be grappling with this. I know you said it seems that the rest of the world is moving faster. It really depends on which country you're referring to and who you're talking about. The entire world continues to be grappling with COVID-19. Some countries and jurisdictions have put less restrictions on public health restrictions on their citizens, but we're seeing that it's causing more spread of COVID And there's a race, I guess, between vaccine and the spread of COVID. So the entire world continues to grapple with COVID-19. And let me also say, I am extremely proud of how Canadians have stuck together and how difficult it's been for individuals, for families, for businesses over the last year. Like, I remember last year around this time, two things. First, we were hoping, while, by the way, no one thought a vaccine would be available this quickly. We were saying a vaccine usually takes 3 years or so. So no one thought we could get a vaccine this quickly, but most of us were hoping that we would find a way to control it, and we won't have to continue to live with those severe measures for as long as we had to. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating that we continue to see wave after wave. We continue to see spread and variants. So I know, and businesses, particularly small businesses, have been suffering quite a bit because of this. That's why our government has made it a priority to be there for those businesses, to be there for those individuals, to help them at least manage the crunch that they're going through, and not to have to carry too much burden. I mean, I know they're still carrying some of the burden, but we wanted to be there as partners and offer a lot of support during this difficult time. And I want to say thank you. We hear you. We're right with you, and we will not give up on supporting you until we are over COVID and put COVID behind us. The best two things that we need to do. First, obviously, vaccination. The rollout of the vaccine is critical to the recovery. We're seeing millions of vaccines come into the country on a weekly basis. Right now, by the way, we are the number 3 in G20. In fact, we are number 2 in vaccine administration per capita per week. So we are receiving, I know there's been some hiccups at the beginning because of supply issues with one of the largest vaccine producers, but we've caught up incredibly fast due to the hard work of Minister Anand and officials in our government, and then the provincial government, and making sure they try to roll it out as quickly as possible. So I am seeing tremendous progress, and I feel that we're turning a big corner. Now, so that's one aspect of it. The second aspect, vaccine alone is not going to be enough to help us get over this hump. We need to continue to follow and apply public health measures. So I ask for a little bit more patience. I know we're all grumpy. I'm grumpy most of the time these days. But I just remind myself that most of the worst is behind us. I hope. I feel confident that we are turning a corner, and that by the coming months we're going to see a dramatic improvement in our vaccination rates, in our health scenario. But we need to be patient. That's the only way we can get out of this, because we won't be able to get out of this if we looked after ourselves, but our neighbors are not looked after. We're still going to be impacted by this. So we need to hang in there. We will be there, and I look forward to celebrating our victory over COVID, hopefully in person with the Brampton Board of Trade soon.
Well, we would love that. It does feel like we've had a little bit of a roller coaster ride with vaccines supposed to be coming, and then we've been let down with supply not arriving when expected at times. And recognizing this was, a really incredibly difficult task. Are you confident that we're now going to see the supply coming in when we're supposed to see it, and that we're going to be able, because we're in a race now. We need to vaccinate before these variants of concern take a tighter grip on us. So are you confident that the supply is going to be there?
I am. And Michelle, let me just say, yes, there were some hiccups at the beginning, but actually, if you look back, we've exceeded the deliveries in the first quarter. Again, if I told you last year that we were going to have 10 million vaccines by the end of March, you would have laughed at me. You would have said, you're political spinning me, and that doesn't sound right, because vaccines take a long time, and 10 million doses by the end of March, But that's what we did. That's what happened. 10 million doses in fact, to be exact, 9.5 million doses by the end of March. Today, we have close to 50 million doses in the country. Officials are working very hard. So yes, I am confident. And one of the key elements of our success so far, and the reason why we've exceeded these targets, is because our portfolio has been so diversified. So when one vaccine supplier had issues, other vaccine suppliers were able to step up and contribute. And that's why I feel very confident that by the end of June, we're going to have close to 50 million doses of vaccines here in the country. And that's not just based on one supplier, it's based on a variety of suppliers who've all been approved by Health Canada. So yes, I'm confident. Now the rest is up to us. The rest, obviously, the administration of these vaccines, and then Canadians, I call on all Canadians to take the first vaccine that is available to them. Delaying it is going to have an impact not only on our lives, but on our loved ones and our economy and our society. So please, if you're eligible for a vaccine, don't wait, go out and get vaccinated.
Well said, Minister. Very well said. So just before I hand over to you for some closing remarks, and then Todd is going to close out the event, I would like to extend a sincere thank you. I know this is an incredible time to be in government, whichever level of government, incredibly difficult time. And also to thank you for taking the time to be here today, to be open to receiving some difficult and challenging questions. And you said to me right from the start, ask away, and I really thank you for that, and being so open and honest with your answers as well. And it's lovely to see you again, Minister Alghabra, and I hope the next time will be in person. And so I'll hand over to you now just to make some closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for first giving me the opportunity. It's really important that I have these conversations with you, with your members, and to exchange ideas and questions. And absolutely, being asked tough questions is an important part of my job. I learn from these questions, but I also am given a chance to answer questions, like I said to you, that may exist in the backs of people's minds, but haven't had a chance to ask them. So I'm glad that I was given this opportunity. And let me also say that I'm so delighted and honored to work with some incredible colleagues who represent Brampton. And I named them Kamal Kara, Sonia Sidhu, Ruby Sahota, and Maninder Sidhu, who are day in and day out working very hard on behalf of their constituents, on behalf of the businesses in Brampton, making sure that the day-to-day stuff, the challenges that they're hearing about from their businesses, from their community, is reflected in Ottawa. And I can tell you they played a big role in shaping the outcome of this budget. That's why this budget has so many components of it are meant to address the support that businesses in Brampton have been asking for. So I am delighted with this budget. I am delighted with the outcome of this budget. There's a lot more work ahead of us. We still have to finish the war on COVID. We still need to focus on economic recovery and fixing the fault lines that the pandemic has exposed within our society, because now we know that these fault lines, not only are they hurtful and damaging to sectors and segments of our members of our, brothers and sisters, our neighbors, but also hurtful to our economy. So it is really important to focus on fixing these fault lines and make sure that we continue our focus on addressing climate change, because again, we're now living the effect of climate change. We're seeing it day in and day out through floods and droughts and storms and forest fires. So we know that we have to continue to face this challenge and reduce pollution. And ultimately, we need to continue to build a society that has a prosperous future, inclusive economy that builds for the future and for the jobs of the future. So thank you very much for that opportunity. And I look forward again to be coming to see you in person when public health measures allow for it. And Todd, I guess over to you. Thank you.
Minister, thank you so much for your very succinct and insightful responses to some very important questions. My goodness, this certainly was an historic budget. 30 billion to national daycare program with some definite specific outcomes on the monthly family budgets of those in Peel region. 13 billion in business supports, 17.6 billion in green initiatives. Truly a historic budget for extraordinary times. Sir, you've fitted so well into your new portfolio, Minister of Planes and Trains and Automobiles and Logistics Centers, during a very challenging time. And we are so proud to have you in this portfolio. And nothing could be more important for Peel region, Brampton, the goods movement hub of our country. So thank you very much for your very insightful responses today, and we wish you well as you move to implement the important features of this budget and keep Canada moving through these difficult times and thriving out the other end. I want to echo a thank you to our local MPs. Each have been instrumental in moving important projects forward, including, as we mentioned earlier, the Milton Logistics Hub. I want to say a particular thank you to Maninder Sidhu, MP for Brampton East, for helping us organize today's event with Minister Alghabra. I want to thank our sponsors, CN, our platinum sponsor, and Goodison Insurance, our gold sponsor, and to our MC and chair today, who is celebrating her 25th wedding anniversary with her husband this week, and made time for us today. Congratulations, Michelle. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention today, for your questions, very insightful questions offered today as well. We are here to support you, to provide opportunities for you to show your leadership as well, and many of you are doing that. If you have time, we encourage you as we enter May. Next week, May 6th, is our open door discussions, our bi-weekly opportunity to talk about your challenges, your opportunities, and allow us to help match people and resources and ideas together. That's happening May 6th and May 20th. That's over the noon hour. So grab a sandwich, join us for open door discussions. Allow us to open doors for you. Minister, I am so happy about the evening of May 6th. That is our Business Excellence Awards. That is a night of inspiration. And who doesn't need more inspiration right now? We will be celebrating 84 Brampton companies from, wow, 5 or 6 different sectors. 14 different awards will be handed out. Just a wonderful night of fun. Be sure to purchase your tickets at bramptonbot/BEA for Business Excellence Awards. Our expert series continues May 18th, 1 o'clock, with Generation PMCA Corp. Both Jai and Badr will be keeping us aware of important trends happening in the investment world, in the merger and acquisition world. Of course, we live in extraordinary times. There are some extraordinary investment opportunities in our business community, and we'll talk more about that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your attention today. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Justina, for the wonderful tech support. Please stay up to date, stay in touch. BramptonBOT.com. We're here for you. Have a wonderful rest of day. Thank you, everybody.